Welcome to Pleroma Pathways, apocalyptic and mystic Christianity, where we explore esoteric and apocalyptic texts. Prophecies, about the corruption of the church, from the Nag Hammadi library. The theme of the corruption of the church is central to many Gnostic writings, reflecting concerns over the church's deviation from spiritual truths. These texts often critique earthly institutions claiming to represent Christ while practicing hypocrisy, partiality, and materialism. Below, we examine insights from the Nag Hammadi scriptures, alongside comparisons to biblical prophecy. The Acts of Peter and the 12 Apostles. The Gnostic critique of church corruption is grounded in observations of partiality and sinfulness. The Acts of Peter and the 12 Apostles warns, "For many in the churches have shown partiality to the rich, because they also are sinful, and they give occasion for others to sin. But judge them with uprightness, so that your ministry may be glorified, and that my name also may be glorified in the churches." This critique mirrors James 2 verse 4, which admonishes believers against favoritism, highlighting the enduring problem of inequality and moral compromise in religious communities. On the origin of the world, Gnostic cosmology introduces the idea of contamination in the visible church, where divine truths become mixed with false teachings. The On the Origin of the World states, "And out of envy, the authorities mixed their seed with them, in hopes of polluting them. Each one of them, starting out in his land, revealed his kind of knowledge to the visible church constituted of the modeled forms of perdition." This parallels 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 3 to 4, describing the man of sin who corrupts God's temple. The Gnostic perspective sees false doctrines and leaders as manifestations of the modeled forms of perdition. The second treatise of the Great Seth. The second treatise of the Great Seth critiques those who persecute genuine spiritual seekers while claiming allegiance to Christ. "We were hated and persecuted, not only by those who are ignorant, but also by those who think they are advancing the name of Christ, since they were unknowingly empty, not knowing who they are, like dumb animals." This aligns with Revelation 2:9, which warns of false believers who claim authority but act as a synagogue of Satan. The treatise suggests that ignorance and arrogance have led to a counterfeit Christianity. The Odes of Solomon. The Odes of Solomon describes the deceptive allure of false teachings and their destructive effects. "All the poisons of error and pains of death which are considered sweetness, and the corrupting of the corrupter, I saw when the bride who was corrupting was adorned, and the bridegroom who corrupts and is corrupted." The Ode's imagery recalls Revelation 17:4-5, where the great harlot symbolizes a corrupted institution adorned with wealth and abominations. The deceiver's allure leads followers to vomit up their wisdom and knowledge, leaving them in a state of spiritual desolation. The Gospel of Thomas. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus denounces the religious authorities who withhold divine knowledge. "The Pharisees and the scholars have taken the keys of knowledge and have hidden them. They have not entered, nor have they allowed those who want to enter to go inside." This critique extends to modern institutions that prioritize control over spiritual enlightenment. The analogy of the unsound grapevine, saying 40, further emphasizes the futility of corrupted traditions. A grapevine has been planted outside the Father, and because it is not sound, it will be plucked out by the root and will perish. The Gospel of Judas. The Gospel of Judas provides an allegorical vision of a corrupted priesthood. They sacrifice their own children, others their wives. Some sleep with men, some are involved in slaughter. Some commit a multitude of sins and deeds of lawlessness. And the men who stand before the altar invoke your name, and in all the deeds of their deficiency, the sacrifices are brought to completion. Jesus interprets this as a prophecy of the church's decline, where leaders invoke his name but perpetuate sin. "They have planted trees without fruit, in my name, in a shameful manner." This echoes Jude 13, describing such leaders as wandering stars destined for judgment. The Testimony of Truth. Finally, the Testimony of Truth critiques superficial faith devoid of true understanding. "The foolish, thinking in their heart that if they confess, 'We are Christians,' in word only, but not with power, give themselves over to ignorance, to a human death, not knowing where they are going, nor who Christ is." This condemnation of empty professions of faith resonates with Matthew 7:21, where Jesus warns, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven." Conclusion. The Nag Hammadi texts illuminate the spiritual dangers of institutionalized corruption, false teachings, and superficial religiosity. Their critiques align with biblical warnings of a falling away and the rise of false leaders. By discerning these patterns, believers are encouraged to seek the incorruptible truth of Christ, free from worldly distortion.